133. Do you perceive this class is diverse or homogeneous in the demographic of whether a person is male or female? Diverse? 46% male, 54% female. So it's about almost an equal split. Marital status, 79% reported never married, 21% reported currently married. No reports of divorce or separations. The average number of children of the 4 people in the class who had children was 2. It ranged from 1 to 3. Now, I perceive this as fairly homogeneous, and not what we mean by diversity in the way we're discussing it here. But if you remember right on the icebreaker, there was a section called interests, and hobbies and interests and so on. And there, the range was, and I remember, I think it was yours because it said dancing, and your employer, I think you reported the employer as a dance studio. The range was hanging out with my kids, and this is not really a range, but hanging out with my kids, dancing, and there was more than one who reported dancing, and some of the others who reported dancing were not instructors, they just danced. Some are musicians, and as one fellow put it, he plays a wicked horn. I think that's how he put it. He didn't use the word wicked, because that's Boston, where I'm from, but plays a mean horn. That's what it was, something like that. Hunting, fishing, motorcycle riding. Don't know whether it was you, but it doesn't matter. Motorcycle riding. And I read that, and I started to get a headache. Because I read every one of these things, and I'm going through it, and it's just this amazing, diverse body of interest. Then I looked at one of my old icebreakers that I used to do, and I have basically 2 or 3 interests: photography, foreign languages, and travel. That's kind of icky compared to dance. I'm a terrible dancer, so I don't even try to go there. I just know I'm bad. Now, my point here is there is an incredible diversity within this group. It's just not on the obvious demographic dimensions. It's on something that's less obvious. The chapter asks us, distinguishes between managing diversity, valuing diversity, and managing for diversity. And organizations will differ enormously in whether they will manage for diversity. And that means building a diverse workforce deliberately. So for you guys, for example, it might be really cool to have some females working in the shop, because they may have a different spin on how to fix that carburetor problem. Because you guys are doing it all the same way. Maybe. I'm not trying to criticize by any means. I'm just using that as an example. Okay. Now, the E exercise in this chapter is really the one that's going to get at diversity carefully for you, and that's the exercise called Diversity Dimensions. And would want you to reflect on your organization, and all that stuff comes directly to me by email, as you possibly by this time know, and I summarize them, I review everything, and that we'll probably have a delay on reporting it into likely the 3rd week because of the delay for some of you, or many of you, with the books. Now let's take it to quality management. Do you know anything about this stuff? Have you ever heard the phrase total quality management? Never heard the phrase? I'm looking at this string up here. Have you, staying with you for a moment, sir, have you seen any emphasis on quality management in any companies you have worked for? No. Okay. Now, this is not quality control. This is the business of caring about the quality of the processes in the organization so they produce a quality product or service the first time, and do that repeatedly. It isn't hard to see this in a company as big as Xerox, which was one of the leading companies in the early parts of the quality movement. It's perhaps less obvious to see it, as I point out on page 31, at Pal's Sudden Service, a hot dog stand in Kingsport, Tennessee. You'd have to look at the citation to know where I pulled that one. It was probably something I read in the Wall Street Journal. This is nothing new. As I indicate here, I traced it back to the 1920s. And we had, it's both a philosophy and a system of management built upon a bunch of concepts and principles that I'll leave the text to describe to you. I'm going to read some people's names, and let's see if you've ever heard of any of these people. As I read the name, if you have heard of it, not that you read it here, heard of it before you read it here, I would just want you to raise your hand. Walter Schuhart, Armand Feigenbaum, Joseph Duran, Philip Crosby. It doesn't surprise me you never heard of them. They are part of the anchorage of both in the history and the development of what we mean by quality management. And this is an activity that has a couple of features. One, it strives for continuous improvement. For example, you may not know it, but the course website for this course and in the fully online courses has changed materially since last week, or the week before. And if you come into the site, you see it has some graphics and some color and so on. And a couple of you came into the earlier version and have noted to me the difference. Yesterday, I discovered in both fully online courses, they have a set of discussion questions that are in a discussion board to which they post. And I was looking at the questions for Module 1, and I said to myself, there's something wrong. Now, do you know what a horizontal rule is? It's just a line that goes across the text, and you'll see examples in the course. Well, at the top of the list, there was no horizontal rule, but there was one at the bottom of the list. And that threw me off, because it's unbalanced. So believe it or not, I spent several hours adding in the horizontal rules as a way of improving. Now you may say, now we know you're 68 years old, because you don't have anything better to do with your time than to put horizontal rules into a website. No. I was quite conscious about what I was doing. It's a minor point, but I want there to be a uniform experience as you move from one part of the site to another, so that the design does not throw you off. Now, I don't rub my hands and fret about the website. I just notice stuff. And in fact, meeting with Heather today, she was commenting on some aspects of the site, and I've made a note, and we'll take a look at it and see what we can do to improve it. This is constant improvement to make the delivery of the product or service better and continuously better for the customer. Have you experienced this in the dance studio, in the motorcycle shop? Just because you identified it, now you're stuck with it. Or any of the other companies for which you work, like the restaurant on the upper left. Have you experienced any quality management effort?
Yeah, we have a lot of training meetings we have to go to keep updated on certain products. I work at a restaurant.
Oh, yes. That's the main restaurant in the Hilton?